Hello and welcome, CSI 135 students. This will be the solution to the lab that we just did, to the quiz number 1 that was just completed on Wednesday evening. So if you'll remember, the quiz was sent to you in an email, and I'm going to type in mail space -f inbox, and that's going to pull the email up. Again, I'm logged in as a student here, CSI 135 B25. So as you can see, I have an email with the subject line. It's email number 11, and it says quiz 1 is waiting for you. So I'm going to type in 11, and remember, if I were to hit the enter key here at the ampersand, I would get the message that has the greater than sign, that has the greater than sign next to it, which would be message number 1. So since I am not interested in what's in message number 1, which is the current message as indicated by the greater than sign, I'm interested in message number 11. I'll enter in 11 and type enter. All right. It says hello and good evening. Quiz 1 is ready and waiting for you in the following directory. So I'm going to go ahead and type Q to quit out of the mail utility. I'll type in cd/temp/we/r way, and I'm using the tab key to autofill, right, in the hopes that this is, each time I type the first letter of the directory name, that it's unique, and it is in this instance, right? So here we are. So if I type pwd, print working directory, I can see where I'm at, and I'm in temp. We are way down the rabbit hole now. So I'm going to type ls because I'm looking for quiz number 1. And as you can see, and I'll use the -L for the long listing, as you can see, quiz number 1 is a bzip2 file. So you'll remember from a few weeks ago, we used the bzcat utility in order to concatenate out the contents of a file that had been bzipped. So if I type bzcat quiz number 1.bz2, and then I'll pipe it to more, so it'll go a screen at a time, you can see it displays the contents of the quiz for me. Okay, so I have the quiz up. I actually have it up in another window. That way I don't have to keep coming back to the quiz. And I'll start with number 1. Number 1 says that there's a file located down in the temp Alice in Wonderland down the rabbit hole, the Mad Hatter directory. So I'm going to copy that, type cd and paste, and I type ls, and there's the file Alice. It says the name of the file is Alice, and your task is to determine how many lines are in the file. So there's a number of ways we could do this. I could type cat Alice and pipe it to wc space -L, and it would show me that the answer is 7,740. Or I could VI the file Alice, and as you can see, it displays the number of lines right here, 7,740. I'm going to do escape shift ZZ. I couldn't have edited it anyway, right? So there's 2 ways that you could have figured out how long the file Alice is, right? Okay, so the answer is 7,740. And the quiz also asks you to create a file to keep your answers in, which you would do in VI. All right, so number 2, there's a file located in the following directory: /temp/Metallica, Guns N' Roses, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Megadeth. Type pwd, you can see that I'm there. If I type ls, you'll notice that when I type ls, nothing shows up. So it says that there's a file there. So what about a hidden file? If I type ls-l, again, it does not show the hidden file. What about ls-la? And again, it's the A that will show me any hidden files that may exist in this directory. And as you can see, the first 2 files are directory files, right? The third file, which has a name of ... is a regular file. And so the quiz asks you, it says the file is the only regular file in the directory. You tell me the name of the file and provide the answer to the riddle. So the name of the file is literally ... and let's see what's in this file. It says I am the beginning of the end and the end of time and space. I am essential to creation, and I surround every place. What am I? And the answer to the riddle is the letter E. And you had access to Google, so all you needed to do here really was cut and paste that into Google to try to find your answer. Okay, number 3. What is the full name of the user RHS? And to accomplish this task, you would use the finger utility and type in RHS. All right, and you can see here that it is the distinguished former CSI 135 department head, Mr. Seabrook. All right, so the answer here is Richard H.C. Seabrook. Outstanding teacher. All right, number 4. On the class system vader.aacc.edu, who is credited for being the author of the utility which? So you can use which to find out the location of different utilities. Right? So if you don't know something about a utility, one way to find out is to use the man pages, right? So if I type man which and hit enter, it usually displays author information toward the end of the file. And here you can see author Carlo Wood, right? And there's Carlo's information. So the answer to number 4 is Carlo Wood. Number 5 asks you, it says there is a file located in the following directory: /temp, /where the red fern grows, /in the forest, /k, long directory name there. All right, so I'm going to type ls, and the name of the file is fern. It says your task is to provide the names of each unique color listed in the file. So let's take a look at the file. So if I type more fern, you can see there's red. It looks like a very long file. Blue, right? So there's lots of colors here. And obviously this is going to take too long for me to manually run through this file, right? So how could I approach this? Well, first let's get a look at how long this file is. So I'm going to cat fern and we'll pipe it to wc-l. You can see it's 6,426 lines long. So it's going to be a little difficult to capture the name of every color by a manual method. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and cat out fern. And we'll create a pipeline. Again, this is one way to go about it. I'll show you another one here in a second. I could then pipe it to sort, and then I could pipe it to unique. So I've catted the contents of fern out. The standard output from that command is then the standard input for the sort command, which then sorts that file for me in alphabetical order. And the reason we want to do that is that it puts every single duplicate line right next to each other. So it sorts them alphabetically, and that's what we want, because then the standard output from the sort command becomes the standard input to the unique command. And it's the unique command that removes all duplicate adjacent lines. And so the translation there is that the unique command will then pare down the standard input that it's receiving from the sort command and give you each color only one time. And so the answer to this question, number 5, is blue, green, red, teal, and yellow. Another way to do this was I could have typed sort fern and hit enter, and it sorts it for me, right? So that works as well. And then at this point, all I need to do is pipe it to unique. Again, there's always more than one way to achieve the answers on quizzes or on questions that we're working on in class. So that's a second way to do it. So let's take a look at number 6. So question number 6 says, there is a file located in the /temp /California /New York /Texas /Maryland /Florida /Arizona /Maine directory, right? And the reason I'm giving you multiple directories is I want you to get used to the fact of using the CD command or using the tab key to auto-complete the names of the directories or the names of the files that we're working with, because they become very handy as you progress in the world of Linux. All right, so print working directory. I am certainly where I think I should be. When I type ls, again, nothing here. So let's type ls-la. And sure enough, it's a hidden file. And not only is it a hidden file, it's a file that's been bzipped. So we already saw from question number 2, I believe, or question number 1, that bzcat will print out the contents. It'll decompress the file as well as concatenate the contents of the file to the screen. And the question asks, what is the name of the dinosaur in the file? So let's take a look and see what kind of a dinosaur this is. All right. I think it's pretty clear that that is a Tyrannosaurus Rex, a little ASCII art. All right. So we have a T-Rex. So the answer to number 6 is T-Rex. Number 7 simply asked you, who is the founder of the GNU project? And that's Mr. Richard Stallman. Number 8, it asks you, it says there is a file located in the following directory, /temp/ this directory is way, and now there are a number of way down here. Right? Again, that tab key with that auto completion feature, very, very handy. The name of the file is phonebook, right? So there's the file phonebook. So let's take a look at it. We'll see what's in here before we start manipulating the file. All right, a lot of Fred Alpha, and it looks like phone numbers, but there's lots of duplicates in here, right? And you can see we're only about 20% of the way through, so let's cat phonebook, because we want to get a count. How many lines are in this file, right? 1,381. Okay, so again, manually trying to go through here, it's going to be a little difficult. The question asks, provide the phone number for the individual with the name Socrates. So this is an example of where you really don't need to sort this file out. You could if you wanted to, but if you were to simply grep for Socrates in the file phonebook, you would see that his phone number is 8675309. And for those of you that were products of the 1980s, that is Tommy Two-Tone, the song Jenny, I believe. So, phone number that is always stuck in my head. All right. Another way you could have done it, you could have catted out the file phonebook and then piped it to grep for Socrates, right? And that would achieve it as well. You could have sorted the file, so I could have typed in sort phonebook. Now you don't really need to sort it. Again, we're just looking for Socrates, and then Socrates, and it could have grep for Socrates. That would have done it. Again, the sort would have been an unnecessary step because we're not interested in the alphabetical listing or the removing of duplicate adjacent lines. We simply want to find the phone number for Socrates. So grep space Socrates, the first example provided here, is the one that you probably want to make sure that you have full understanding of. All right, that was number 8. Number 9, provide 3 different ways you can save a file using the Vim editor. And those would be, let me get in my home directory here and I'll VI test. So if I'm putting some text in here, right, I could hit the escape key to get into command mode. I could use :X and hit enter, and that's going to bring me back out to the command line. If I delete a couple lines, I could do escape to get into command mode from input mode and hold down shift and do ZZ, and that will save it. And I can also copy these lines here, and if I decide to, I hit escape to get out of input mode into command mode and type in :WQ. Now, the question says just 3 different ways to save the file. It doesn't actually mandate that you get back to the command line, so I could simply just do :W and hit enter, and that file has been written, and this is where you can see the file has been saved, and that's what that means. So if I do :WQ and hit enter, it'll bring me back out to the command line. So that's actually 4 different ways you can save a file using the Vim editor. Finally, question number 10 says, what are 2 of the modes of the Vim editor? And so again, we've talked about 3 different modes. We've talked about input mode or insert mode. We've talked about command mode, and then also last line mode. And last line mode is really where you go when you're saving those files. As soon as you enter a colon, while you're in command mode, you're dropped to last line mode. So any of those three would have satisfied two of the three requirements for this question. The last requirement says you will now need to email your answers to the quiz to me on the vader.aacc.edu system. Send your email to tpb@vader.aacc.edu and be sure to CC yourself so that you'll also receive a copy of the file that you sent to me. Because if you don't send me the right file, you want to make sure that you're aware of that so that you can then remediate that file and get the right file to me. Alright, so here's how that would work, and we're going to use the file test, and even though it doesn't have test answers in it, it's still going to serve our purpose. So I'll clear my screen. So remember, it's mail space minus S, and again the minus S is indicating that what follows the minus S is going to be your subject. Now if I just wanted to put a single word there, quiz, and then tpb@vader.aacc.edu, that would work. But if my subject is going to be longer than one word and contain any white space, right? So as soon as I hit space, I want to make sure this subject's in double quotes. Quiz number 1 answers, right? To tpb@vader.aacc.edu, and I'll hit enter. And now we're in the compose portion of the mail program. Now you'll remember that ~R, which stands for read a file into the mail program, and our file name is simply test. And again, I can use the I can use the relative path name to the file here because I'm composing the email in the same directory in which this file resides. If this file was in temp, and if you get into the situation, if you hold down the control key, you can do delete and backspace one character at a time, or I could hold the control key down and hit U, and that'll wipe out the whole line, so I can start again. So again, if the test file was in temp, I would have to put the absolute path name, right? Because it's not in the directory that I'm currently in. However, in this instance, the test file is in the current directory, so I can use the relative path name. And again, you can sign the message, right? And you could continue to type if you wanted to put additional information in here, but you can see, you'll know that you've been successful when it echoes out to you the name of your file, the number of lines that were in the file is the first number that appears, and then this is the number of bytes. So I'm going to go ahead and type cheers CSI 135B25, and then on a line all by itself, I'm going to put a period and hit enter. Carbon copy. Again, it asks that you carbon copy yourself. Now, if you didn't carbon copy yourself, that's okay. However, at this point, you won't have a copy of what you sent me because we haven't set up a sent mail folder, but we'll be doing that later, or sent mail file, I should say. All right, so I'm going to carbon copy CSI 135B25, hit enter, and that's it. So now I want to check, hey, what did I send Mr. Bonfili? So I'll type in mail, and I'll hit enter, and as you can see, here is quiz number 1 answers. So the current message right now is message number 1. So when I hit enter, you can see that I have lab number 4 here, right? We'll be going over that shortly. Oops. N is for next. So let me come back. Let me take a step back here real quick. So now the current message is message number 2. So now if I were to hit enter, right, it says I'm at the end of file. So there is no message after number 2. If I type in number 2, it will show me message number 2. And as you can see, this is the file test. And here was the signature sign-off that I gave in the mail compose portion. Remember that this was not part of the file test, right? So you can continue to compose email after you read a file in. All right, that is the answer to, or these are the answers to quiz number 1, and that is each and every step that you would need to complete to successfully get full credit on quiz number 1. All right, I hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you next Wednesday evening. Have a great weekend and enjoy the 3-day holiday.